Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, episode 217. I am Nick Murawski, and this is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find it absolutely everywhere. And join us live on our YouTube channel on Sunday nights at 8:30. That's happening right now. Try to do that every episode these days. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, find past episodes there, and, of course, the audio absolutely everywhere. Boy, we've got some interesting things to talk about as our lifeless Chicago White Sox get swept by a red-hot Tampa Bay Rays team. Going to break all that down, kind of look ahead. All that with my very dear friend, Mr. Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Hey, so my theory that I had going into the series was the Rays can't possibly stay this hot, right? Maybe we'll catch them on the downward trajectory. But, moral victories, Nick, you lost by a run for the first two games and kept it close today. You keep keeping things close. Pedro seems to think everything's there. We just got to keep working.
Yeah.
And it's going to be all right. And I do have to say, I texted you yesterday, a very sad news to report. My very good friend, Positive Patty, he died yesterday. The positive part of me,
sad situation.
That was thinking it's still early. Things could change. I've seen enough, Nick. I've seen enough. This team just does not play well enough without Tim Anderson for whatever reason. So when he's out of the lineup, I feel like we have zero chance to win the game. Is that
well, because
again, crazy?
With him out of the lineup, you've got Lenyn Sosa, and he is just a black hole, and he has not figured out pitching. And again, small sample size. I don't really expect much of Lenyn Sosa, and the way the White Sox go in 2023 isn't going to be because of Lenyn Sosa, but after he was, red hot in the minors, I haven't seen much at all. But, he, like everybody else in this White Sox team, which I really want to talk a lot about in this episode, plate discipline. I mean, just nobody really has it. And again, Rays, very good team, top to bottom. McClanahan, man, he is a tough lefty. He showed it on Saturday in game 2. But so if you missed the last episode of Guys Talk Back, Pat's strategy towards the end of the episode was just, look, the Rays have got to lose eventually. Let's just go in there, just show up, get our jerseys on, and you never know. And on Friday, Pat, the game 1, it seemed like that was going to happen for the White Sox. The Rays were giving the Sox the game. They said, here's the game, Chicago White Sox. However, if you take this, we're going to still just keep playing if you don't mind. And the Sox were like, great, we'll take your 6 walks you're going to give us. We'll score 3 runs with 0 hits on those 6 walks, and we'll be happy with that because that's how the White Sox do things. They don't want to put the foot on the throat and just end it. But the Rays kept playing, and they battled back because the Rays, they lived up to the hype. They absolutely did. They're a complete team, top to bottom, defense, pitching, hitting. And it's not just one guy you have to look out for. It's several players. And they walked it off on Friday and on Saturday, and a really just dejecting game on Sunday. I mean, they all are, but Sunday, Sox had 3 hits, which is, I believe, the least amount that they had in a game all season long. So if you haven't been tuning in regularly, hey, the Sox 22 games in, haven't won a series. They're 8 games under 500 and haven't won 2 games in a row. Now, Pat, after saying all of that, they're 5 games out in the Central. What does that say to you?
That if this team would ever play up to whatever potential we thought they actually had, they'd probably be 2 games in front. Let me just be honest. You're telling me you can't win a series, you can't even win 2 in a row. I don't know what to say anymore, Nick. It's kind of like I've seen enough. And when I was joking and said the positive part of me has kind of died, I'm not kidding. At this point, I'm wondering, and I'll go back to something I said in the off season. I don't remember what episode it was. Don't quiz me on it. But I said, this first half of the season will determine maybe the next 5 years of this franchise. I believe that is coming to fruition. Now, there won't be moves that are made. I don't think there's anything that's going to happen between, now and next month. So this team is going to be the team we're watching, but I don't think there's much improvement to be had. I don't think there is anything. There's nothing coming on the horizon in terms of big moves to be had. If there was big moves to be had, you would have done that and addressed positions in the offseason and maybe, maybe address the comments that have been coming out for years on this team that AJ Brzezinski brought up again. It's roster construction. Again, we've heard that criticism from several different people. I think AJ said it last year. You can blame it on roster construction. Again, he's bringing it up. So there's no change coming there. The easy part will be, again, to say, well, we got to break it down. But on the other hand, Nick, Jerry let Rick do that last time. And Rick was able to sell Jerry on, this is the way it's done. We break it down to the studs and we build it back up. He allowed that to happen. Several years passed with terrible losing records and maybe Jerry not being happy. He just thought, I can see the forest for the trees. I don't know if he'll let that happen again. So are we just stuck in this mediocrity of a middling team for the next 5 years, or will it even be even worse? I don't know. Either way, it's going to be horrible.
I think the Sox continue to be a mediocre, just floundering franchise until really the guts of the front office are excused and there's an ownership change. I mean, I was talking with the host for Lockdown Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday. Really great conversation. We kind of set up this upcoming series between the Jays and the Sox, and he had some great questions, but they're not unlike other questions I've received, and I'm sure you have received the same thing from Cubs fans or Cards fans or other people around baseball of, how did this go so bad for the White Sox? And this guy, Craig Ballard, who's really good Jays fan, he said to me, Nick, I thought it was going to be Sox Jays in the ALCS for like a couple years with the way things were going. And the Jays are 13-9, but they're fourth in that division because the AL East is just a dog, just an absolute beast of a division. And you have to keep, rising to the challenge. You have to keep getting better, or else you will just completely be left in the dust if that matters to you. And I said, Craig, I don't know. That is the thing that's keeping all Sox fans up at night. But honestly, it is just a failed, front office situation, I think. And yeah, you tore it down, but you didn't know really how to build it back up, and you didn't get the money to do it, and on and on and on. And people wondering, well, why don't the White Sox just go get smart people from the Tampa organizations or other organizations? Those smart baseball people, they don't want to come to the south side of Chicago, because they know what's going on or what's not going on. And until there's ownership change, until everything gets completely, the guts of it get all changed, like there's not going to be the real change, you want to see. It's going to be a lot of this stuff, a lot of just mediocre stuff. And the Sox are 5 games back. That tells me that the division is horrible. The AL Central is a very weak division, and nobody should be saying to themselves, well, at least they're 5 games back. That's a testament to how weak the division is, not because the Sox are actually playing good baseball and like hanging in there with teams that are playing good at the top of the division. So it could only get worse. I mean, they're 2 games off the pace from last year. After 22 games last season, they were 9-13, and they were 4.5 games back. So the AL Central has been rough for a couple of years now. I mean, I just don't know what to make of it. Like some of the changes that you want to put in place right now, Pat, how do you do that? How do you do that within season? The plate discipline. I mean, the plate discipline, Pedro Griffol's talking about how it obviously needs to change. The approach needs to change. It's not an easy fix, but it can be fixed, but it takes time because it's a mental thing. Players have to kind of convince themselves that whatever pitch they're seeing, and really it's Luis Robert, you can put Oscar Colas in there, you can put Elvis Andrus. There's a lot of guys that just have no plate discipline. Whatever pitch you're seeing there, You're not going to do anything with it anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a pitch that you're going to have a high success rate on. And that's easier said than done. But this was a thing that was supposed to be worked on in the offseason. Castro and Tosar talking about how they're having these great sessions with guys and they're practicing taking pitches. And this happened in spring training, apparently. Wow, these guys, the way they're taking pitches right on the board. What in the world happened? I mean, it's like the season started and it was like, well, that was all fun. Now I'm going to get back to how I used to be. And I'm just going to get aggressive and swing at everything I possibly can see. Guess what, Luis Robert Jr.? That is not how you're going to start hitting. Because if I'm a pitcher, and Toronto, I'm sure they're going to do this, I'm not throwing you anything in the zone.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep throwing you dirty sliders, stuff out of the zone until you can prove to me that you can lay off of it.
Yeah. Well, you know the old saying, Nick, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, don't mess with Texas. So it's a little bit, it feels like deja vu all over again, right? It feels like we've seen this movie before. We've sat down, we've paid money for it. We've got our popcorn and we went through it and we thought, I just think this movie's going to get better eventually. I just really do. At this point, I've seen enough of the sequel, and I'm like, well, this is kind of where we're at. So I almost feel relieved knowing that I don't really have to be waiting for this big, well, I just got to put 2 weeks together. We'll be right back in it. We've got to put a streak together. We can put a good, a month and a half or half a month together, and that'll just turn the season around. That never happened last year. I don't have any reason to believe it's going to happen this year. And you had mentioned it. Those types of things I'm being discipline at the plate were things I thought we had, addressed in the off season and in spring trading leading up to the season. So at some point it's the players that you've constructed, right? The players that you've brought in, you obviously didn't find guys that had plate discipline as part of their DNA. And maybe that's something that you need to look at, when hopefully the next general manager looks to construct this ball club, is we need to find people that are not only can hit for power, but have some plate discipline. And maybe those two things go hand in hand, Nick. I mean, maybe I'm no smart person when it comes to baseball. I'm no smart person at all. But, you think maybe if people were a little bit disciplined at the plate, they'd be hitting pitches that are their pitches and not pitchers' pitches, and they'd be able to get the ball out of the ballpark and maybe be able to put more runs on the board on a consistent basis. I don't know. So again, the offense for another year is broken. It is broken. And I had mentioned earlier about Tim Anderson's absence and how much better we play when he's there, but there's still enough, in my opinion, in this lineup to make it formidable against an opposing pitching staff. I still think there's enough guys in there, regardless of the couple missing pieces that we have. So, I wish I could sit here and tell you that I have optimism. There's reasons to hope, but I have zero hope sitting down and watching a ball game anymore. Zero.
Yeah. There were some silver linings if you want to think about it. I hate to call them, moral victories. You're going to have that in every season, whether you're Tampa or not. You're going to be talking, moral victories when you didn't actually get a win. I just felt like we'd be talking more concrete, actual wins in 2023 than these little moral victories. Outside of Lopez's meltdown at the end of Friday's game in game 1 against Tampa, the bullpen went 9 1/3 innings and really gave up nothing. If you remove that Lopez outing, okay. Yes, Lambert gave up that walk-off hit to Arozarena. That's not counted as an earned run because of a ghost runner. Why he was pitching to Arozarena, why they walked Franco to get to Arozarena when he already hit a home run and a single in the game is, I guess, handedness. Franco was up as a lefty, Lambert a righty. They wanted to get to Arozarena for a righty-righty matchup. That's the only thing I can think of. But outside of that, the bullpen was pretty solid. Lopez came back after his meltdown on Saturday and pitched pretty well in the 9th inning. The Sox played some really tight games on Friday and Saturday. The Rays had to walk off 2 games to get wins. Kopech looked like he found some things after kind of getting punched in the face early on. I'm trying to make some arguments here to make me feel a bit better about the weekend. I'm not surprised at the outcome. I'm not surprised that we got swept. The Rays are an absolute juggernaut right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really hurt that was a gut punch on Friday to not score more runs when you're basically just given the game, knowing also what kind of bullpen you have. That really set the stage for the weekend. Now the Tim Anderson stuff, look, they weren't necessarily a winning club when he was on the team. And I just think his presence, it's a solid lineup with him in there. You got to believe that. Where does this team go? I mean, are you looking far ahead to the trade deadline, Pat, right now? Are you saying, wow, we're in a situation where you might see Giolito dealt. You might see Tim Anderson moved. There are probably a lot of teams that are going to be on the phone with Rick Hahn if it keeps going in this direction. And by July, August, a team that should have been competing for not only the division, but more than that, is just a skeleton of itself.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed, Nick. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think this season, this first half of the season, will determine what is this franchise going to look like over the next 5 years. And I really think it's headed towards another rebuild. I think it's exactly where it's going to go. Giolito, to me, he's got enough on tape, right, for enough teams to bring back something, and he's still a serviceable enough guy. So I think you get something for him. I think you get as much as you can for him. And same with Tim Anderson. The thing about Tim Anderson is his availability. He's just not available a lot. He hasn't been. He's never proven to be able to stay on the field, whether it's this year with the fluke injury or years past where he's got, soft tissue injuries in his legs. So again, those are guys that you move and you get as much as you can for it. And it's really sad that we're talking about this in April right now. But I can't mask it anymore. I can't sit here and I almost actually feel better about that because I'm sitting watching today's game, and my 6-year-old, God bless him, is just excited for baseball. He's running around, he's throwing a ball against the door all day today with his Luis Robert Jr. jersey on, asking, when did the Sox play, Dad? Let's watch the game. And I sit there and go, I don't even know if I want to watch it. He's like, they might win today, Dad. And it's just this cockeyed optimism. And it's just, I'm jealous of it, but I can't sit there anymore and go, well, tomorrow's another day, because you know what's happening tomorrow? You just mentioned it, Toronto. And then guess who we see again? Tampa Bay. Yeah. We got 6 games against these teams. I don't know that we win a game. And then you're home against Minnesota after that, which we showed like we played really well against them in Minnesota. So I don't know. Maybe it gets better when we play Cincinnati and Kansas City later on in May, but Houston comes to town, then Cleveland. We've sucked against them. Kansas City, we never really beat all that well. Cleveland, Detroit, man, I don't know. And then LA. That's May. Nick, I'm telling you, I don't see a lot of wins on the board with the team playing the way it is. And I'm sorry for the folks that are listening right now. And we're hoping for some positivity and looking for maybe ways to feel better about this team. It's not happening. I'm sorry. It's just not.
If you were fast forwarding through this episode and you just landed positive Pat is passed away, you're not going to be getting a positive Pat Hester anymore on this podcast. He met his demise after this past weekend's Tampa series. No surprise. Some of these losses, I thought positive Pat hung on for a long time. He was kind of on life support a little bit, and it was kind of like an old school WWF matchup where maybe he just got tombstoned a couple times, but it was able to kick out. It's like, how is he kicking out? He kicked out, and then this past weekend, it was just nail in the coffin.
I got bludgeoned over the head with a chair, with a steel chair.
That's the knockout. Yep. That was the knockout. This is a quote from Pedro Grifol from earlier this month, a few weeks ago. I don't like the term early. It's not early. It's a game. It's a Major League Baseball game that we've got to win, whether it's April 1st or freaking September something. And Jake Berger I believe last week, said every single game there's urgency. Doesn't matter if it's April or September to win games. It's again, like when these losses keep piling up and keep piling up, and you just haven't been able to win on the margins in April and May, while you've got guys on the IL, while you're scuffling. That's going to happen. You're going to, just like a pitcher that doesn't have their plus stuff during outing, there are going to be times where a team just, they don't have it that game, but you've got to find a way to win. Okay. How can we somehow get a win? Maybe it's not our traditional way of winning, and I really don't know what that is for the White Sox. I have no idea what their identity is right now, but a winning ugly type of game. And that maybe was going to be Friday. They scored some runs. They also had an ugly inning where they had 3 runs without getting a hit. It's like, take it. If Tampa's going to give you that, take it. You've got to get those types of wins. That's what we said at the beginning of the year. And here we are, late April, with the schedule that you just rattled off for the rest of the month and into May. Yeah, the way they're playing, I just don't see it. And what confidence do you have that Moncada is going to come back and be what he was before he left offensively? What confidence that you have that this 1 for 14 Robert that we saw this past weekend with 6 strikeouts is actually going to shake out of it? Or is he going to give you maybe 2 hot weeks and then go back to just like a shell of himself and not remember, how to have plate discipline or anything like that? Can all these things, be put together consistently? All these question marks. I think that's what you and I are saying right now. We're at a point where I don't think so. You have to prove it to me.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the hope right now.
I got something for you. If you liked my last theory on how to beat Tampa Bay, which is hopefully they just won't be as good. Here's my new theory.
Yeah.
They're coming into Chicago. We got maybe some bear weather on our side, Nick. Maybe it'll be like it is now, a little snowy, a little cold. A team from Florida that plays in a dome. I'm thinking 2 out of 3 in bear weather. We got the advantage.
You just said a positive Pat was dead, and this is like
this isn't like
a zombie. This is a zombie positive Pat. He's back.
No, I just thought I'd spit out another.
That's not a bad.
It's not a bad theory.
It's not a bad theory. But the Sox are horrible at home once again this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
They were at least they gave you some life on the road. That's where I thought a little bit. There's a little hope of them going into Tampa. Hey, we got. What was crushing was that loss on Friday because you knew you had the Cease game. Now Cease didn't look terribly sharp. He just was not getting his swing and miss. The Rays, man, they had at bats. They fouled stuff off. They didn't go down quietly. His pitches were racked up. And McClellan on the other side, the lefty, I mean, he just had like Nintendo stuff, as Hawk used to say. His changeup was ridiculous. And but again, there was a chance. That's the other thing. It's like with that dominant pitcher on the mound, the Sox still had a chance to win a game. To also, not do anything in the 10th, Pat. That is driving me absolutely crazy. You want to talk about preparedness or execution or urgency, to not even be able to move the ghost runner that's on second, that is gifted to you, to not even move it to another base. I mean, you deserve to lose at that point.
You have to find a way to get to the ball to the right side. You just have to. You have to move that runner up. You cannot pull the ball to shortstop in that situation and not let that runner advance to third base. I mean, it's just, I was just going to say this as you were mentioning it. I don't know if there can't be a worse team in extra innings since they've done this ghost runner situation than the White Sox are. I cannot imagine there's a worse team in Major League Baseball than us. I'm not going to look it up, but I know it's not a winning record. I just can't imagine there's anybody worse than we are. It just, it makes me want to spit nails. I just can't understand it. I cannot understand.
You gotta think about, hey, we need at least 2 if you're on the road. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to just play for 1. I think there's a lot of home field advantage. But I'm at a point, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that'll roll their eyes or be unhappy with it, but I'm at a point where you're just going to have to lay down a bunt. I'm sorry, as a leadoff hitter, with
Yeah.
some exception to a couple guys, but there is some way we need to get that runner on third with at least one out. There has to be, and just these unproductive at bats, it just kills you. And again, you had an opportunity to possibly sneak another win that you didn't see coming after Friday. So those types of things, I thought were going to be different. Some of the fundamentals, just playing better baseball, being prepared, having a game plan. That has gone out the window. Now, I know that there are guys on this roster that you just didn't expect were going to be playing at the beginning of the year, but give me a break. Like that's Griffol's job and that coaching staff's job. Like we got to make sure everybody's on the same page from the beginning. That should be an organizational thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
Do you think that, so you had mentioned it, you're on the road, you should play for two. Do you think with our lack of success, regardless of if we're at home on the road, just you got to scratch at least one run across?
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it doesn't matter if you lay that bunt down.
At this point, I'm saying yes. Like that's where you got to get at least a run, put some pressure on them, because you never know what could happen. You just never know. I'm just not seeing a very good brand of Chicago White Sox baseball. And, why am I surprised? Why is anybody surprised? For me as a fan, I drank the Kool-Aid. I've admitted that. I bought what was being sold to me. I said, you're going to sell me on health, luck, hope, and a return to accustomed levels without really doing much to this roster, bringing in a guy that's never managed in the big leagues before. Okay, I'll buy that. I'll run with it. But as soon as it goes sideways, I'm calling you out on it. And here we are,
So what are your thoughts on Pedro then through, the just under a month of the season?
I feel like, there's some things that are completely out of his hands. Like this is what he was gifted in terms of lineup. I think he probably pushed for certain guys like Hanser Alberto, who, we haven't seen in a while. And when he was with us, wasn't doing much at all. The bullpen, like what is he? There's been some weird moves. I think there has been a honeymoon phase of him trying to figure out which arms can I rely on, which arms are dependable. There's been injuries once again in the bullpen. What is he supposed to do if these guys just can't figure it out? Roster, the lineup construction, it's been a little odd. Luis Robert in the one spot on Sunday, and maybe that was a mental thing to like try to get him to just change things up. I know it sounds weird and maybe counterproductive or however you want to say it to what I've been talking about. I like his consistency though. Like some of you just roll it out there. Don't be don't overreact too much. Like these guys should be able to figure it out. But now I'm starting to get to a point where 22 games, some of them just aren't. When does it click for Benintendi? I like that he gets on base. I like that he's getting some hits. He seems like he keeps the line moving more than other guys in the lineup, but zero power. Andrew Vaughn's finally got a home run. Eloy's got a couple. Long story short, with Pedro Griffol, we could have got this from Ozzie Guillen, and we've been having more fun.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up Ozzie Guillen, and it would have been fun for sure to have Ozzie back at the dugout, if nothing else for the post game conversation and the honesty that you would get from him. And I think if this team had started out like they have, and Ozzie Guillen was the manager, you could at least point to Ozzie having success, not every year as the White Sox manager, but a good handful of years, and going, I trust that Ozzie will get this point in the right direction, because I've seen that before. I've seen him manage this team to success. And again, it wasn't year after year, and it wasn't all the time. And there was definitely some failures along the way, but I could say, you know what, we're just struggling through this rough time. We could blame it on injuries, but I think Ozzie will get the ship righted here. I believe that because I've seen it before. And with Pedro, it's like there's so much unknown, and I think maybe, but to counterpoint myself, I think that's why I held on so long last year with Tony, even though Tony was crazy and did some really crazy things. You go, well, he is a Hall of Fame baseball man, and he's got 3 World Series rings. I think he's seen it all before. If anybody can get it righted, there's things he does, I shake my head, but he can get this team righted. And so maybe that's not the right way to think about it. But yeah, I mean, at some point, I mean, do you look at Pedro and go, maybe we got over our skis? Maybe we just fell in love with a guy that was a good interview and didn't really trust the fact that there's a reason why he's been a guy in the bench for as long as he's been.
Well, when he was hired, I was, really taken aback. I appreciated the fact that he was coming from outside of the organization, which has been something that hasn't been done for decades with the Chicago White Sox. He's been around baseball, great resume, great references. I mean, everybody spoke so highly of him. Limited success. Okay, there was the World Series with the Kansas City Royals. I didn't really look at the Royals as like this revolutionary club that, wow, like I really want to tap into what the Royals are doing. We want to get to one of those guys. But he saw us from, across the diamond in the same division for a while. A guy that's hungry, for his first managerial job. But that felt very 2017. That felt very 2018 of like, help this club, play good baseball, play fundamentally sound baseball until we bring in somebody that really knows how to push this club of veterans, this talent to the next level. In our window, which I don't know if we're even in that window or what the window looks like or all that other stuff, I thought that was odd to bring in a first-year manager and give him the keys and just say, hey, try it. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe these guys will play for you. Maybe they'll stay healthy. Maybe everyone will hit and you'll look like a genius. Maybe everything's going to go correct. And you'll just kind of pull a Robin Ventura like he did in 2012 for a large chunk of the season. It's like, whoa, is Ventura a genius, or is this team just, really good and it doesn't matter who's filling out the lineup card?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get to this point, and here we are after 22 games of like, well, look what what do you expect from a first year manager? Because he sold me on everything that he said in the offseason, and you want to think like there is a guy in there that really, has got a game plan, knows what he wants to do, thought the chemistry, everything, he said he seems to be saying the right things right now. But again, what else is he supposed to say with the results?
Yeah. You talked about our window. I don't think there is a window anymore. If there is, Nick, it's one of those like people that have a broken window in their car and they put a white or a clear plastic bag over it and duct tape it. But that's what our window currently looks like. It's not even actual glass or pane anymore. It's just, it's some type of clear plastic with duct tape and whatever else you can seal it up with. Flex Seal, maybe. You love Flex Seal. I know that.
I love Flex Seal. I don't think Flex Seal is too strong for this team. Too strong of a word.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
too strong of a brand. Like
too strong of a brand for this team is playing right now. Just 0 series wins, 0 situations where they've won back-to-back games after 22 games. I think Merkin tweeted out, being 8 games under 500 is the farthest down from 500 that the Sox have been since 2019, towards the end of that season. That tells you something. That tells you just going absolutely backwards. And, that definition, or that assumed definition of insanity, is trying the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results. Wouldn't you say that's kind of what this organization has been doing? handcuffing themselves on spending, only picking from certain bins of certain players, not really going after generational talent, not drafting well, maybe not even understanding how to develop players. And then like the type of people you bring in to run things, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Nothing is alarmingly different.
If you spent 15 minutes in the White Sox organization, you could get a job. Like, oh, you want to run our minor league system? You've been here for 5 seconds. It's like,
Yeah.
you were some washout. Why don't you manage our AAA team? You
Why
have
do you
no
think
business
that
doing
is,
anything.
Pat? I mean, is there any like what do you think? What does that say to you? Is that a laziness in terms of
Oh, it's extremely
organizational
lazy.
hiring? Is that just
Yes, it's
you
extremely
know?
lazy. They go with what's comfortable. I know this guy. He's a really good guy, good family man. This guy should, he was with our organization, good person. Let's give him a shot to do something he's not even qualified to do. Hasn't worked in any other organization doing this type of job or leading up to. You want to get people that are in positions that are in other winning organizations that are ready to take that next step, but maybe have somebody that is log jamming them, right? What, this guy is really deserves a chance. He's done a great job. Let's hire him for our XYZ position, and then let that type of person fill out the staff that he wants to fill out. And again, it's an organizational thing from top to bottom with the way with the way things are run over there. So I don't know, Nick. I used to be I used to have a different thought about the ownership and the how it was run, and I always thought the loyalty that this organization has for people is commendable, and there's people that really put that in high regard when they talk about Jerry Reinsdorf. But goodness gracious, Nick, there's no reason why the people that are still in power over there should be still in power. It shouldn't be. And that's for every level, not just the team that's up here in Chicago. That's every level of the organization. And I couldn't rattle off who's running what in the lower levels of the minors. But again, there is no White Sox way. There is an Atlanta Braves way. There is a St. Louis Cardinals way. Hell, there's a Minnesota Twins way they do things in their organization, which is why those types of teams, they may have a down year here or there, but they'll be able to build from their organizations and build from within without having to spend a ton of money.
I mean,
It's not like,
Cleveland.
yeah,
Look at Cleveland.
yeah,
Again, going back to this conversation with Craig Bollard from Locked On Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, just spoke very highly of what's going on in Toronto with their front office and how they've handled things. And why does Rick Hahn still have his job? We talk about this all the time. I feel like every few months, anytime there's a situation that the Sox find themselves in where it's just going in a completely wrong direction on social media or probably in fan circles that everybody's having with, friends and family and coworkers. Like, why is Hahn still in place? The only thing I can think of is that the expectations by Jerry Reinsdorf are so low, it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
The real truth of it is Reinsdorf doesn't really care. Whatever I get. And as long as you kind of, do it the way I'm saying to do it and don't bug me too much about the budget situation and this, that, and the other, like, I don't have any big expectations. We got our World Series. I got enough NBA championships. I'm made in the shade. Just, pretend, okay? Sell it. Be an actor. Pretend like you really care. Pretend that I really care as an owner. And you're set. Kenny's set. Just, let's act like we're really trying to do it. And maybe that's what the rebuild was all about. It's like, let's try to go on the cheap for a while, still kind of get fans in because they've got some hope that something big is coming at the end, but we're never really going to do it. We're really never going to flesh this thing out and give them a winner, but let's drag them on as long as possible and keep their hopes up. I mean, that's the only way I could think Hahn still has a job and everybody else is because his boss doesn't have big expectations.
yeah, yeah. And it's a sad state of affairs. I don't know. I don't know what to think about the rest of the season, Nick. I mean, if we put our predictions in, I had a 90 plus win team. I'm seeing more like a 75 win team. If that, I mean, you have to win at least a couple in a row to, I think, get 75.
Yeah.
So at some point, you're going to have to win 2 in a row. I don't know. I don't see it on the schedule right now. I don't see 2 consecutive wins on the schedule
I
right now
think
for this team.
after 20 games, this current White Sox team, I think they were 7-13 or something around those lines, maybe 7-12, which was, I think, identical to 2022. But you won 81 games last year. Could you see this team figuring it out to win 81 games and getting to 500?
There
Like
were
that's
2 spurts they had, Nick, to get to I think the 500. Obviously, they got there in the end, but a couple of times where you thought, okay, here it is. We finally gotten the rock up the mountaintop, and we've worked so hard to get there. And they just could never push that big rock over the peak of the mountain and let it roll down the hill. I just don't know if this team even has it in them to have any kind of push to get the rock up the mountain. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense. And everything I read, though, if you're going to take that at its word, is things are positive. We trust everybody in the clubhouse. We know the talent in this team. It's going to happen eventually. We just got to keep going.
Yeah, but we heard that last year.
Exactly.
That's
why I can't buy into it anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
I can acknowledge it. I'm acknowledging that you're saying that. And I think you think that that's possible, but I need to see results. That's why the moral victories and the silver linings, and that's cute. That's cute if we were maybe a 500 team, maybe a slightly over 500. And you know what? The Rays, they ate our lunch. They swept us, but we were really in on 2 of these games. I could see maybe walking away being like, okay, let's build off of this. I don't know if this team knows how to build off of it. I don't know if they know how to take that and how to take positives. That's Griffol's job.
Yeah.
That's the coaching staff's job. Of course, internally as as individual Major League Baseball players, they have to as well. But if this thing's going to, be somewhat kept in check and not spiral, Griffol needs to really get his hands on this and somehow deliver a message. I don't know if it's a closed door meeting. I don't know what he has to say. I appreciate that he's continuing to play guys like Aloy, like, hey, we've got trust in you. We've got faith in you. Lopi, we're going to bring you out the next game. Like that does not define you that Friday game. But that's great and all. I mean, I don't know. Does that enough nurturing and positivity? Does that all of a sudden then turn the switch on, in May? That's, again, we're relying on hope and these things that we can't really feel, taste, touch.
Man, I'd love to taste and touch some wins once in a while. I mean, it honestly just, like I said, I feel like before the game even starts, I'm like, how are they going to lose the game today? How is the other shoe going to drop? How is the ball? And I think there's something I heard on the post-game show, and I didn't listen to the entire thing, but I think I heard Ozzie say, well, Bobby Cox said just sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. And I can get that to a point, but the ball hasn't bounced our way in over a year, Nick.
Yeah, that to me is that you are playing good baseball, and sometimes it just, despite your best efforts, you're going to lose, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole 60-60. You're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. Well, you could be a good ball club, a very good ball club, and still lose 60 games. Sometimes it just didn't go. But this team, I don't feel that. I don't feel like that. That this team is more of, we don't know where the ball is.
Yeah.
We don't know if it even bounced. We're confused in the direction where it might bounce. I think they have to string together 2, 3, 4 games for me to have some faith that they're headed in a way better direction. It can't be moral victory losses. We got to just put some wins together.
Boy, I don't know. Maybe they've decided to go, we're going to win 60, lose 60 and all that old saying. Maybe they're just saying, let's get all those 60 losses out of the way as soon as we can. And then we can go to about the business of winning those 60. And then we'll concentrate on the other ones in the back half of the year. They're just trying to be very efficient. Let's just get these losses out of the way as fast as we can at this point. Does that make
This
any
is
sense
such
at all?
It's a theory.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
got a lot of
know.
theories. I got some bear weather. I got these teams will probably not be as good when we play them,
Yeah,
and losing the 60 you're supposed to lose quickly. Get it
yeah.
out of the way. Get it out of the way now, and then boom, you're ready to go to win your next 60.
They've got 3 against Toronto, which is a tough place to play for the White Sox. Lance Lynn, Clevenger, and I think Kopech, if I'm not mistaken. And then Tampa comes to town for a 4-game series here in Chicago. So I think the Blue Jays are going to play the Sox really tough. Again, you make mistakes to good teams and they will make you pay. They've got some bats, they've got some pitching. I don't know. Like there's not a lot of days off right now. That's the other thing is you got to just keep going out there. I really hope the next time we talk, we just have a better idea, an identity of this Sox team, of where they're trending and where they're going. Cause I'm becoming very apathetic. Now I will continue to be watching and covering this White Sox team, as I do daily with Locked On White Sox, and I don't know anything else. But it's becoming more of like, business, the passion, the excitement. They're not putting a product on the field to, light anything on fire from me as a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt about it, Nick. It's just it's a very well, they've got a game today. We'll probably lose and we'll talk about it. For us, it's, what are we going to talk about on Sunday? Probably more losses. And I'm just reserved to the point. Again, I don't want to be extremely negative, but I'm thinking about how am I going to be YouTubing the next upcoming star? Who's the guy in the minors that we're going to be watching and trying to get highlights of and salivating over? Maybe in 4 or 5 years, this guy will be up and it'll be great. Because that's kind of where I've reserved. I don't think much of this major league team right now.
And I don't have a lot of hope. I mean, there's excitement and watch out for this guy, but when was the last time that actually panned out for the Sox?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it's all we might have.
Yeah. Well, Pat, I mean, if anything, this was therapeutic for me.
I knew it would be. That's what I thought.
I'm gonna talk some White Sox with you.
Really
yeah. Buddy, always a pleasure, my friend, talking White Sox.
Nick, if anything else, you and I are fantastic people. We do a great job here, and we always do our best without any errors. And we just do what we can with what we're given.
This is our 5th season, folks, doing this, and man, it feels all of it right now. It feels tough, and we really appreciate some folks. I know I've heard from them. You've been with us since day one. Thank you so much. Continue to pass this White Sox podcast along to other Sox fans in your life. You can find the audio absolutely everywhere. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page and got a YouTube channel. So subscribe. Trying to do these live shows once a week, usually on Sunday nights at 8:30. So for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.